You'll have to shout if you can see my screen. Can you see my screen? Excellent. Thank you very much. Yeah, as Wynand mentioned, it's the honor that is bestowed upon an outgoing president to have a presidential address during the annual conference. And unfortunately, we weren't able to have the annual conference last year, and so it stood over to this year. And with the presidential address, the outgoing president usually gets some sort of carte blanche to impart some pearls of wisdom or non-wisdom upon the captive audience. So with my address, what I'd like to do is just reflect a little on my career, my journey as a scientist, but also the role that the society has played in this role throughout my journey. So what I'd like to do is take a lot of literary freedom and perhaps dwell upon one of my favorite topics, and that's that people should read more. Usually what I do is I tell students when they come, when in my past life, when I was still school director, I used to, in the opening address to the parents, tell the students that when you come to university, you don't come and do a degree. You perhaps go to the hairdresser and have your hair done, but when you come to a university, you read for a degree. And in class, what I try to tell the students and impart upon the students is that really the people who've made the difference in sciences are those people who are able to write well. And technology. And if you start looking at writing well, then you start being able to communicate your science well. And if we look back in history, my field of ecotoxicology, the seminal work in ecotoxicology and bringing forward the plight of the environment related to environmental pollutants was the book The Silent Spring by Rachel Carson. Other books were also those by Joy Adamson with Born Free, of Elsa the Lion, and then as well Diane Fossey's more recent, and you can call that recent, more recent work on the gorillas in Central East Africa, and that's Gorillas in the Mist that was brought in by through a movie. So what I try to do is I try to get students to read more, and thereby trying to get them to be able to present their science more. So back to my personal reflection. When I was asked earlier in the year for a little piece on, so what is my hobby, for our in-house magazine, without any doubt, I could say, well, I like reading, and the reading that really focused me as a scientist and focused me in the career. Then it was related to books that, as a youngster, 6-7 years old, devoured in the local library, and those were the books by Willard Price and the Adventure series by Willard Price, and the Adventures of Hal and Roger Hunt, and the collection of animals from far corners of the earth that really piqued my interest in the natural sciences, in biological sciences. The only time I'm going to talk about the non-reading is when we were exposed to television back in the mid-1970s. The Jacques Cousteau series brought about a bloom in marine biology, and this is what really got my interest going into aquatic sciences. And I think it's these early influences in your career that really focus you on what you would like to do. My personal journey as a scientist can be summed up in, and for those people who have heard the story, might have heard the story and haven't heard the story, well, here it is again. It's about a series of journeys, and the book So Beautiful by Leonard Sweet indicates that our lives are stories, they travel stories, and those stories are influenced by people and happenings. And there are only two plots in our life story, and that's the plot of you as a stranger coming into town. So when you embark upon something new, you're the new kid on the block, and then it's about that human, that person, that mensch that departs upon a new journey. And all of our journeys are essentially a sequence of these two travel stories, these two plots, a stranger coming into town, and then the well-rounded, holistic person leaving and going on to a new journey. And that's essentially the evolution of your career from a very young, naive first-year student up until a point where you are able to say, well, I think I might have accomplished, or I'm on the point of accomplishing something in my career. Just in terms of the role of people upon my journey, and those people were initially my supervisor, Johan van Vieren, who instilled in me the manner in which to deal with people and to deal with students particularly. And then those people who are in charge of you as an early career scientist. And here specifically Digby Cyrus at University of Zululand, when as a youngster joining a group working on estuaries from an inland university, it was an eye-opener, and it was something that formed the rest of my research career. One of the things that Digby also taught me about being in sciences is that travel, young man. You have the opportunity in academia to travel the world, and don't miss out on that opportunity. Use it as much as possible and broaden your horizons. You'll see in brackets I put conferences, and since we're here at a conference, hopefully there are people at conferences who also influence your journey as a scientist. Wynand mentioned, or Richard rather mentioned, that hopefully this is the last online conference and we can actually meet face to face next year, and that's definitely important. And many years ago, in the early 1990s, I met Peter Chapman at a conference in Hong Kong, and his keynote presentation totally blew my mind. And this was a presentation based on his personal reflections on the science and where the science is going and what is needed in the science. And that really got me to thinking. And I was fortunate enough in the early 2010s to, together with Peter Chapman, put together a paper looking at South African ecotoxicology and where we should be going. And I think we got it right in the sense that many of the issues that still need to be addressed are still very pertinent and are still very much understudied in terms of where we're going in South African ecotoxicology. So the influences that these people have had on my journey as a scientist is really to think outside of the box, but not only think outside of the box, but look at things differently, because each of us has a different perspective on what we're looking at in terms of science. And it allows us to perhaps study the same pollutant, but from a different angle. And therefore, one never needs to feel as if though somebody is treading on your turf, because there's always another way to look at things, and a new way to look at things. And this new way of looking at things actually allows you, as the Cheshire Cat told Alice when she wanted to know where she had to go from here, is it really depends on where you want to go. And that's so great about being in science, is that you meet up with new people at conferences, you get new ideas, and you can set off on another journey, on a new journey. One of my personal favorite books or authors is Dana Snyman, who writes travel stories. And Dana Snyman's stories very often reflect on things that happened in the past and how they are influencing or having an effect on current as well as future day activities. And from my personal perspective, one of the really joys in my research career has been my long-term involvement in research on the rivers in the Kruger National Park. This journey started off in the late 1980s, beginning of the 1990s, as part of the Kruger Park National Rivers Research Program. And I've been fortunate enough that since the early days of doing research under a wild fig, with the only guard in the tree being Andrew Deacon, making comments about how to do research, to as recently as earlier in this year, doing sampling in the Kruger National Park 30 years after the first survey at the same site, and from my side being able to sit in the shade and tell the students how to do the research. I think what is important about your story and how your research story progresses is the people with whom you do research. And the mantra that I've been using throughout is work with people that you know, work with people that you trust. And if you read the book by Stephen Covey on the speed of trust, you'll see that the success of a research activity is related to the measure in which you are able to work with people that you are comfortable with working with. And one such example is, and this is one of the success stories of one of our more recent networks, is the work that we've been doing on the Pongola River floodplain. It's now 12 years and counting. I think many of the earlier work done on the Pongola system by Charles Breen would probably be of a similar time period, and I think we can truthfully say that we're starting to get to a place where we're getting an idea of long-term changes in ecosystem structure and ecosystem functioning within the system. We've been fortunate to train 24 masters and PhD students on this research program, and this involves students from 7 different universities. So South African universities, University of Venda, University of Zululand, University of Johannesburg, then also international universities, Hokkaido University in Japan, and then 2 universities in Belgium, University of Antwerp and the University of Leuven. This has resulted in 43 publications. There's another publication that's just been accepted. And these are very wide. They range from cultural aspects through to water quality, biodiversity in terms of parasites and macroinvertebrates and amphibians, as well as ecotoxicology, my research field, and how these different components can be integrated to look at how one can manage the system. As a colleague of ours says, research networks work if you work with people with whom you can have a beer. And the success of our research has always been because we're able to party with our research collaborators, and that's the way you really learn about your research collaborator, and you're able to recognize where one could go with this research project. My SASAqS story. My first SASAqS conference, Wynand mentioned his 2006. My first SASAqS conference was in 1991, held in Grahamstown. It was a conference which was freshwater, estuarine, and marine, so it was fairly big. My first time as a conference organizer was when I was at University of Zululand, and we had the 1997 conference at Mtunzini. I was fortunate enough and honored enough to serve on the executive committee of SASAqS, initially from 2001 to 2004, and then again from 2006 up to present in different capacities. Central to our society is the journal, and I was also fortunate enough to serve as an associate editor with the journal for 5 odd years. So, where are we today? I think the coronavirus has had a massive influence on the activities of learned societies all over the world, and I'm grateful to say that through constant interaction over emails, Wynand, as the then secretary, was able to keep the communication going with the members, and the importance of deciding to, well, even though it might not be optimal, to have a conference on a virtual platform was extremely important, not to lose any momentum within the society. And I think what's come out very strongly and clearly is that the number of people who have registered for the conference and the number of presentation actually attests to the fact that people still want to interact, that there's an important aspect related to being a scientist, and you don't do it on your own. You need to work with people, you need to converse with people. Finally, how do I see SASAqS in the future? I think what's important is that we need to put the urn back into Southern African Society of Aquatic Scientists. We have a potential membership out in our neighboring countries who we need to draw in and make part of the SASAqS family, thereby expanding a lot of the work that's currently going on transboundary rivers, expanding that into a learned society's activities as well. I've mentioned it a number of times. I think we need to get greater involvement of the scientific diaspora. These are the scientists who are in the consulting field, and there are many of young students who attended SASAqS during their master's and PhD years, who now in doing scientific work in consulting firms. And whilst there are lots of people who are active within the society, I think more can be done to incorporate the expertise that they bring to the table. I'm just thinking about the successful eyes, the Marai, the Fries, a rapid bioassessment workshop that was hosted during the last face-to-face conference at Zabula Lodge in 2019. That we should make this an annual component of the conference. I think where the society can play a major role is assisting fellow scientists who might not be within the academic space or university space with aspects related to research that are coming to the fore. And this is particularly obtaining ethics for specific research projects, where perhaps through the society and through SACNASP, a mechanism can be created whereby people who are not with universities, that they are able to obtain ethics clearance for projects which are becoming more and more relevant these days. And then finally, I think as X goes, we're moving out of the generation X's into new generations, the Y's and the rest of the alphabets, it's how about to go about appealing, speaking the language of the post-generation X's. What does a SASAqS conference look like for a post-generation X? And I think these are challenges that the SASAqS Exco sit with in future, and I'm very certain they are able to address these challenges very successfully. And I think my final word is just in the words of the immortal Captain Haddock, is that after 30 years association with the society, I'm looking forward to a few more years with the society, and as a president and involvement on the exco, I can say that all's well that ends well. Wynand, I think that's me. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that really interesting and perspective on SASAqS. Maybe we can just find out if there's anyone who has a question maybe for Victor, if he's willing to answer a question or two. If there is questions from anyone. Doesn't look like. There's a question from Gordon, I think.
Hey guys, hi everyone. I just quickly wanted Prof. Vic to add, many moons ago, he encouraged me tremendously by giving me advice on how to progress from where I was as a young scientist to somewhat of an established scientist. And I'd like, you know, can you just comment, Prof. Vic, on what you think youngsters in the industry need to focus on so that they can end up in a similar prestigious position? And just thanks for all of the support and effort and help. These relationships are so important to all of us. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Gordon. Maybe just a quick comment from my side is that I think the most important thing is do what you enjoy doing, and I think very often, and I think I made that mistake in the beginning of my scientific career, is you come to conferences and you see, oh crumbs, people are doing this, I need to do this, I need to do that, and you sort of end up chasing things more than living out your own research dream. Yeah, I think as you get older, you start to realize is that it's important to do what you enjoy doing, and not just to do things that you think other people expect you to do. Easy to say now, but yeah.
And then there's another question from Richard.
Thanks, Vic. I don't want to put you on the spot, but which possibly was your most enjoyable SASAqS conference you've attended?
Oh, the most enjoyable one. So Richard, yeah, you're quite right. I've attended many. So one of the most enjoyable ones was your first conference, I think, and we were fortunate enough to spend a week with Stan Rogers at the Eland in Hans Marinsky Nature Reserve, and I think the conference at the Eland, I know that Wynand Vlok is on the meeting as well as one of the organizing committee, was probably one of the most enjoyable conferences. That was the conference where the beer never finished, as far as I recall.
Well, as Victor said, having just returned from a fieldwork in the Eland, I can imagine a conference in the Eland could be a lot of fun. Can I just ask before, if there's any other questions, please raise your hands. But when you join the meeting, can you please make sure that you add, or at least type in your name? You should be able to change it in the settings when you join. There's quite a few people who's joined with not their name or just a surname, and if we want to ask you questions, that we can just get the right name. I don't want to offend anyone. I see Gordian Mataba also says thanks to Victor for giving the good advice on do what you enjoy doing. And Patsy Sherman also saying thanks, Victor. So from my side, I'd also like to just say thank you to Victor for all his support so far as with this conference as well, and all just my research career and everything. So thanks for that, and thanks for the good advice as well. Not sure if there's any other comments or questions. If there's not, we can move on to the next section. Just a video from Innova Biotech that I'm going to get up now, and then there's a presentation from separations as well. So we'll start with the video. If you bear with me for 2 seconds and hope the technology doesn't let us down, and then I'll get that video up and play it. Can you see? Okay, so first up, again, a big thank you to Innova Biotech for their sponsorship of this conference and allowing us to send you the participation packs and reduce the student fees for this conference. So let's see if this video works. If there's no sound, please let me know.
Welcome to Innova Biotech, Africa's genomics company. Established in 2002 in Pretoria, South Africa, Innova Biotech is a rare and unique company, as suggested by the name, and we thrive to give reliable and efficient services to all our customers. How it all began. With the concepts developed in the year 2000 to speed up the arrival of primers in molecular labs in the country, Dr. Oliver Pfizer, co-founder and executive director, together with a venture team of 5, secured a loan from the Swiss government and got rights to be the very first company to synthesize primers locally, and thus it all began. With capacity to synthesize over 1,000 primers a day, Innova remains the only company that does this in Africa. This is made possible by the Mermaid 192E. Using an ABI 3500 exome, we offer DNA sequencing from various templates, and we offer primer design, PCR amplification, cloning of PCR products, fungal and bacterial identification, and much more. In 2007, we launched Next Generation Sequencing Services, which provide NGS projects design inputs, quality control library preparation, and sequencing workflow using either MySeq, NextSeq, or the PacBio systems. We have more services that include SNP genotyping and methylation analysis using the Agena Biosciences mass array systems, bioinformatics solutions that complement our NGS services, and qPCR analysis. We also are a distributor of strong international brands, which includes New England Biolabs, Zymo Research, Epindol, Glentham, CG, Nolato Trev, Charlab, just to name a few. Innova boasts a responsive technical team with expert knowledge in the services we provide. We also have a well-trained engineering staff making sure that the installation and servicing of instruments purchased at Innova is well taken care of. A fleet of vehicles commissioned for local trips and deliveries assures we arrive at your lab on time. In the past 18 years, we have started subsidiaries in East and West Africa, and we have offices in Kenya, Nigeria, Ghana, Tanzania, Senegal, and still maintain a strong presence in our neighboring countries. All this is achieved with a highly trained and professional team that is always ready to assist. Welcome to Innova Biotech.
Okay, thank you to that video of a little sponsorship. Next up is Separations, who's got us, and Colette. I think you can share. You've shared your screen.
Morning, Wynand, thank you very much. And Prof. Ebner, it's not every day that they make the sponsors follow the presidential talk. So yeah, quite big shoes that we have to fill. But thank you to Wynand for putting us into this spot. Following the presidential address, what generally happens is that we interact with all our scientists, you know, at tea time or at lunchtime. But COVID has made it a little bit more difficult for us. So what I'm going to do today is just give you a quick overview of Separations, who we are, what we do. I know many of you interact with us on a daily basis, but COVID has changed that for us. So I'll go through a quick presentation with you, and I see I do have some of my colleagues on the talk as well. So if there are any questions, you're more than welcome to interact with us. So just a little bit about Separations, who we are, what we do for the scientists is our vision really involves making our South African scientists more successful. And we believe we do this by offering you spectacular products, providing you with spectacular technical support, and also delivering spectacular commercial services. We believe that we make you raving fan customers, and the longer you're a customer of ours, the longer we'll be in business at Separations. And we do this by means of our values, which involves honesty, responsiveness, reliability, and also empathy. It also helps that we strive to uphold a BEE level 3 and higher to make it easier for you as scientists to procure from Separations. Today, I'm just going to give you a brief overview of the workflows that we think is important for you, and also just the benefits of why you do business with Separations. And these benefits do not necessarily is only just echoed by us as a company. It also comes from you on a yearly basis. You fill in our customer survey, and our Net Promoter Score was more than 6 this year. And to give you a slight comparison, Apple was rated lower than us. So thank you very much for all that positive feedback that you did give us. But reasons why you do business with Separations, and I think all of you know that from an ordering perspective, the most frustrating part of orders is not knowing whether people has received your order, not knowing when your goods are going to be delivered. Those of you that do interact with us will know that we give you an order acknowledgement the moment your order is placed, and that we also then give you a notification upon invoicing so that you know your goods are on this way. We believe that we have got world-class products with amazing synergies, and we also have service departments in our main hubs to make servicing of our equipment easier for you. If we talk about our various departments, we've got more than 8 departments within Separations, more than 80 scientists that work for Separations on a daily basis. But some of the departments that you interact with most frequently would be the biotechniques department. There you make use of our daily consumables. And I know most of you would know all these little things on the screen, which involves your filter tips, your centrifuge tubes, parafilm, your PCR plates, just to name a few. But if we talk about the workflow, this would involve more your genomics and your molecular workflow. So if we think about examples, we generally start with your extraction, followed by PCR or qPCR, and this generally ends up in sequencing. Now, if we think about the DNA and the RNA extraction specifically for aquatic sciences, there's been quite a few new things that have come to light in the past few years. And this involves, for instance, the eDNA water kit, where you can isolate eDNA from freshwater and saltwater ecosystems for varying levels of organic and inorganic matters. And just to give you an example, what we've been able to do, for instance, in Germany, is we have studied the European toad, and we basically looked at it from hibernation, where it came active in March and then started to spawn in April, and we were able to track the presence of the toads in a pool of water by using this eDNA extraction kit, and also followed then by PCR analysis. So also for those of you involved in the isolation of COVID in water and wastewater, we've also successfully been able to do that in quite a few institutions where we take large bodies of wastewater up to 50 to 500 liters, concentrate the virus from there, and then do the necessary PCR and qPCR steps to detect the presence of the virus in our water bodies. So on the screen, you just see our molecular workflow, which involves your DNA extraction, followed by your qPCR or your RT-PCR, or just your normal endpoint PCR, if that is what you're doing. Many a times this workflow ends in next generation sequencing, and there we represent Illumina as a partner. Now, many of the aquatic sciences will either be involved in metagenomics or metatranscriptomics, or even amplicon-based sequencing. And this is mainly through 16S, if you look at the bacteria, or if you look at the fungi, the ITS regions. But we can also recommend whole genome sequencing, if that is what you want to do, or even enrichment, where we sequence the targets from the primary samples. If you do not have a next generation sequencer, we're also in contact with the major sequencing centers. You can get in touch with us and we will recommend one for you. But within your research group, there is already SciAp that can offer these services. If water analysis specifically is what you're looking at, you're not necessarily looking at any molecular biology, then we can also help with the photometric water analysis, the filtration of the water, the pH testing, looking at the nitrates in the water, the oxygen levels in the water. We can even look at environmental control, look at heavy metals within your water sources, and we can also follow this on with LC-MS work from our instrumentation bodies. Then many of you might be looking at pathogen detection, and if we look at pathogen detection, you'll see the long bar, colorful bar on the top of the screen. And just this generally starts with liquid handling, where you make use of your pipettes or your bottle top dispensers. From there onwards, you generally filter the large bodies of whether it's water or pathogenic sources. You'll use that to filter, and then you'll use your media and your supplements in order to either pour plates for streaking, or you can also go the qPCR route for the detection of the necessary pathogens. Now, within this entire workflow, separations can offer, in each pocket of this workflow, can offer you various products for this. So if microbiology is something that is your daily routine work, please get involved or in touch with us so that we can assist you with that. You will note that this slide ends with a microscope, and I'm not necessarily going to talk about all the equipment, but what I do want to highlight, which I think is important for aquatic sciences, is our microscopy by means of our Leica microscopes. These can also now plug into the car battery, so that if you are doing research out in the field, you can plug in your little microscope to look at your aquatic life. Or if it's something like COVID that you're doing, we can automate your high throughput samples by means of our Hamilton automation. We've also successfully installed the biggest biobank in the Southern Hemisphere in Stellenbosch. So our capabilities are endless, but as I said, we have changed the way in which we do business to a more online, virtual world because of COVID. So we would literally interact with you on a one-on-one basis, and we invite you to get in touch with us so that we can help you with the various needs. Just to end off, our head office is in Johannesburg. We also have a branch in Cape Town, and we have a satellite office in the Eastern Cape. But if there are any questions, if anything I've mentioned today is something that you want to discuss more, please get in contact with us on info@separations.co.za, or you can contact me directly. It's colette@separations.co.za. And with that, I'd like to wish all the speakers, well for their talks, and for all the poster presentations as well. And then to the organizing committee, thank you very much. Have a successful conference.
Thank you very much, Colette, for that very informative presentation. So if anyone wants to get in contact with Colette and Separations, she gave you their contact details, but you can also contact me and I will get you in contact. There's also an opportunity now in the chat to have a discussion if you want to get in contact with her, Colette from Separations, or even Katlego Radebe is from Innova Biotech. You can also drop him a chat box message if you would like to speak to them, or them to get in contact with you if you have some questions. So with that, it ends this first introductory session. The first live question and answer session on aquatic ecotoxicology will start at 11 o'clock. So please use this opportunity to take a comfort break, go watch all the YouTube videos. There's 12 really interesting talks lined up for the session. Go have a look at them on the YouTube channel playlist and be back. Please log in if you do leave the meeting by 10 to 11, so we can promptly start at 11. We'd really appreciate that. And then I'm going to just share in the chat the link to the SASAqS medal ceremony for tomorrow. So you can click on the chat link and that will take you to the registration directly. You can register and then join us for the medal ceremony tomorrow afternoon at 4 o'clock. So if anyone has any specific questions about the conference, you can ask me now, or we can take, and then if not, we'll take the comfort break and we'll start at 11 with the first session. I see there's a hand. Chris.
Hi, Fernand. Yeah, I just wondered if you could clarify how the Q&A session is going to work. People are watching the videos on their own time, and then we're going to log back in at 11 and you're going to go through people in sequence for Q&A, or how will that work? So
we would like to maybe give up the presenters a minute or two just to say welcome, who they are, put on their cameras, and then we can ask questions for each presenter. Yes. So the first one will be chaired by Victor. So I think the easiest way will be to go through the list, and then if there's any specific questions for each presenter, then Victor's hand is up as well. So maybe he has an idea of how you would run his session. Victor?
Yeah, Chris, Vedant gave us as session chairs a bit of carte blanche there. So what I would like to do is give each of the presenters a minute or three just to present their main findings, and following everybody's short little presentation, we can then just go into a general discussion, or if there are specific questions to a presenter, we can field those. I've had a look at the YouTube channel, whether there are any questions there, but it doesn't seem to be.
Yeah, so if there's anyone who's got questions now while they take a break, please, you can add it in the chat box or in the YouTube channel comment section, and we will address them in the session as well. Okay, if there's no other questions, then we'll see you back at 11. This room will stay open and the chat will stay open. I'm going to stop the recording. So if you would like to ask questions, there will be someone